The title is controversial, and I know that the first thing you're going to do is go into the comment section and start hating on me, but wait, I can explain. Hey guys, my name is Ryan Thomas with Failtech, and this is why I think that $1,000 really isn't that ludicrous of a price to charge for a modern smartphone. A high-end one at that. Now firstly, I'm not justifying a smartphone purchase for myself. I use a battered old OnePlus 3 and an even older Note 4. I'm not trying to defend a purchase, but a lot of tech YouTubers have been hating on the $1,000 price tag.
$1,000.
$1,000 price tag.
$1,000 for it.
But what a lot of people forget is that smartphones aren't just the cost of materials and build. There are a lot of things that go into a smartphone. There are the parts, there's the labour, then there's the research, of which quite little is done. Then there's the marketing. Big companies like Apple and Samsung pay thousands, if not millions, to get their products marketed. There are other things as well. This is very basic. You know, you think about your stores, your factories, paying your employees, everything like this. This is just a very basic amount, and it's crazy how much actually goes into it. It's not just the cost. Your iPhone might cost $1,000, and everyone might be crazy about that $700 profit, but they're not necessarily making a $700 profit. You got to think about the other things. Next is, even if they were charging $1,000 and making $700 profit, you've got to remember what goes into the average high-end smartphone. So we're talking your iPhone 10s, your Galaxy Note 8s, your Pixel 2 XL, and of course your Galaxy S9 Pluses these days. So yes, a Quad HD or around that resolution of a display doesn't sound so impressive, but you got to remember how pixely dense these displays are and on what scale they are making and selling them. Then you've got to think about the technology. A lot of these screens are OLED. Now OLED means organic LED, which means that every single individual pixel and subpixel is backlit. Now that might not sound crazy, but you've got to remember that most TVs that are OLED, even at 1080p, cost in the $1,000 range, so $1,000 for one of these. So you're getting that in your smartphone. Then add on top of that most of these smartphones, at least in this era, so iPhone 10 and onwards, they're HDR and they cover a huge color gamut. Now, this doesn't sound a lot to people who are maybe not into their technology, but having that calibration and having that level of color and intensity and accuracy across all of these smartphones is something that you pay multiple thousands of dollars for a computer monitor to have. And then added on top of that, it's a touchscreen with minimal latency and minimal enough for you to not really notice when scrolling through on the majority of these phones. So you add that all up into a display, and that display is on your smartphone. That's pretty crazy. The resolutions of these displays are higher than the average TV, higher than the average computer screen, and even higher than the average laptop screen, and they're packed into a phone of all things. So in my opinion, a display such as the one on the Note 8, the S9 Plus, and even the iPhone 10 to some degree, are absolute steals to get for $1,000 or under. Then there's the cameras. Pretty much every smartphone these days has 3 cameras, one on the front and 2 on the back. Some, like the Pixel 2, have 1 on either side, and the P20 Pro has 3 on the back and 1 on the front. But these cameras aren't just your average everyday camera. They have really good software behind them that enable some crazy, and I mean crazy, features that you don't get on your average point and shoot. Let's give the S9 Plus as an example. This thing has an 8 megapixel front camera, which arguably isn't amazing, but it's still a basic camera, better than pretty much every webcam that you'll see on any laptop or desktop. And that can shoot 1080p, or on the S9 Plus's version, QHD video, which is pretty good. Then on the back, you've got 2 cameras, so that's already an increased cost, but let's just take into account one camera. That's a 12 megapixel sensor with a variable aperture, which is pretty crazy to create in itself. Then it can shoot UHD video at 60 FPS. Now find me a point and shoot camera at $500 that can shoot UHD at all, brand new. Then there's the fact that it can shoot high frame rate video, that's 480 FPS and 960 if you're willing to degrade the quality and shoot in a short burst, which again, find me a point and shoot camera at $500 that does that. And it encompasses all of this in a smartphone with minimal bulge in its camera bump and an incredible level of detail. And you can share it basically straight away. You don't need to take out the SD card, you don't have to do any messing about, it's all there in the phone. Again, even if we were just talking about the camera in this phone, it's absolutely ludicrous for what you're paying for it. As an example, the G7X and the G7X Mark II, very, very popular vlogging cameras from Canon. Yes, they have larger sensors, yes, you get better bokeh, and yes, you have more dynamic range and everything like that. But those things don't shoot UHD video. Those things don't even shoot super slow-mo 1080p. So I mean, it's food for thought, really. Now, the system on the chips. This is pretty crazy when it comes to Apple. Apple are really good at making system on a chips. Ben from Lover of Tech and I were talking about this the other day. It is ludicrous how fast the system on a chips from Apple are. Their iPhone 10, 8 and 8 Plus, which all share the same A11 Bionic, are faster. They have faster system on a chips than the base model MacBook Pros. Yes, okay, iOS can make it limiting, but remember that the iPhone 10 can shoot UHD 60 FPS to storage and it doesn't have a buffer. So it just shoots and it's processing that on the fly. Absolutely crazy. It takes a ludicrous amount of processing power to do this, and Apple have managed it with their A11. Okay, yes, they might have 3 gigs of RAM as opposed to the 6 and 8 gigs that you get in a typical $1,000 smartphone such as the Note 8, which again is a crazy amount of RAM for a phone, remember? And that leads me on to the Note 8 with its 6 gigs of RAM. But just to mention that Apple phone has a better system on a chip than the CPU in a laptop. Now, these aren't directly comparable because, of course, one is running x86 architecture. But in Geekbench, the numbers show for themselves just how powerful the A11 Bionic is. And in similar terms, of course, the Note 8 and the S9 Plus with their fast 6 and 8 core system on a chips, with their crazy ludicrous amounts of RAM and microSD expansion beyond that, and then water resistance beyond that. It's just crazy to me, and not a lot of people get that. Now, the reasons that these cameras can shoot such high frame rate and such high resolution video is actually because of the system on the chips. So the system on the chips are allowing the on-the-fly transcoding, encoding, and all of this compression and everything from the main camera straight to the phone on the fly. And you don't need an external recorder or a giant heatsink or a giant fan or anything. Just think about that. Then it adds super fast, low latency memory internally in the phone. Then it powers itself with a battery internally that can be 3,000 or plus milliamp hours, which, remember, most laptops have like 5 to 8,000 milliamp hour batteries. So it's ludicrous that a phone this thin has maybe a 3,000 or 4,000 milliamp hour battery, although I'm still not happy with the size of the battery. Then most of them have wireless charging contacts, fast charging technology, and the phone can dynamically adjust its speed based on the battery performance, as Apple's really shown. So you've got all of this in a phone that's this thin. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, yeah, but I can go and spend $200 on like a Motorola phone that basically does the same thing. And yes, of course, there is a law of diminishing returns. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. However, that doesn't have an HDR display, that doesn't shoot in these ludicrous formats of video, and doesn't have this powerful of a system on a chip. And you might not care about that, and that's why you pick a budget phone. I personally am absolutely happy with the speed of the OnePlus 3. I think that's like a 2 or 3, maybe even 4 generation old phone at this point, and I don't see a difference between it and a faster phone. But remember that those high-end phones, those super flagships, aren't directed at you. They're not marketed to you. They're marketed to people who are likely to spend more money and appreciate more of those features, or walk around with a fashion statement in their hand. Trust me, I know it's weird. I have to film the rest of this on a smartphone because unfortunately my GH4 is, well, the SD card's broken. New one on the way, so next video will be kind of shot better than this. However, the outro I'm gonna have to shoot on the Note 4. So hopefully you got something out of this video, guys. I hope I'm informed you a lot on how much there is that goes into a smartphone, and it's not as easy as just looking at how much the base parts are and the research, because there are so many things go into it. And hopefully you've kind of become aware of how high quality these smartphones are. I mean, I'm shooting on a Note 4, which is a 4 generation old device, and that thing has a better screen than most TVs and laptops and a better camera than most point and shoots. So it kind of indicates just how crazy these things are. Anyway, I just want to mention that I am working with Ben from Lover of Tech on an unplugged tech and chill kind of live stream that's going to be on this channel and on his channel on Sunday night at 8 o'clock. So it's Sunday the 27th at 8 o'clock PM BST. Yes, BST, British Summertime. So hopefully you tune into the live stream, and it would be cool to get your feedback, your comments, interact with us, have a good conversation. We talk a lot about phones and stuff like that, so that's going to be really cool. Please check that out. Also, please do follow me on social media. It really helps me out, and hopefully we can start a conversation over there as well. I want to thank HasTechGamer, Darren and Ross for supporting me on Patreon. Go follow me on there if you are really so generous, and I invite you to like, comment, dislike and subscribe depending on your thoughts, and hopefully we can grow the cheap smartphone community on YouTube. Anyway guys, my name is Moran Thomas again with Veltech, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.